Hi everyone, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to be making a collage based on the work of Alexander Calder. What you will be needing today is your Alexander Calder papers from your art folder. These should be new papers that you received from your teacher or that you picked up at the front of the school. We don't need the label, so we can get rid of that. You should have some different colored pieces of little square paper, and you should have a white piece of paper that's larger and a square, and a black piece of paper that is the same size. So if you did not get a chance to get these papers at school, all you need today is a white piece of paper, a black paper, and some different colored pieces. If you don't have these certain colors at home, that's okay, and you can use whatever materials you have. Instead of using black paper, you can always use something else that has a pattern like wrapping paper or newspaper, or even something from like a magazine, as long as it's something different than our white one. And you can always color in different colored pieces of paper to use as our smaller colored construction paper if you don't have construction paper at home. We're also going to need a marker or pen, a glue stick, and a scissor today. Now we got to learn all about Alexander Calder today, and we are going to make our own version of one of his paintings. Now we want to show balance and movement in our collage, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black paper and I'm going to rip it in half from one corner to the other. Now I don't want this to be a perfect rip right in half. I want it to have some weird bumpy edges and things, so I'm just going to carefully rip from one corner to the other. There we go. Now I can choose which half I like the best. I think I like this one more, so I can put this one to the side. And we are going to glue our black paper onto our white paper. So you can choose what corner you would like to stick your black paper in. If you want it in the top corner, if you want it in the bottom, down on this side, or up at the top, wherever you want it. I think I'm going to put mine up in this top corner. You just want to try and line it up as best as you can to match that corner from the black paper with a corner on your white paper. It is okay if it is not perfect and it doesn't reach all the way over to the other side. But now that that's placed where I want it, I'm going to put some glue on the back and stick it down. Again, lining up that corner where I want to put it and just pressing it down onto my paper. Giving it a nice massage so I know that it sticks. And that looks good. I'm going to put the cap back on my glue stick for right now. And looking at what we have so far, we have a paper that is half black and half white. And even though the two halves of our paper are different colors, the way that it's split is kind of creating its own version of balance. Because what I have on this side is repeated in the shape on white on this side. So even though our colors aren't matching on both halves of our paper, there's still a sense of balance where both halves are equal. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my colorful pieces of paper, and I'm just going to rip these into different fun little shapes. I don't want them too small, but I want to be able to get a few out of my piece of paper. So I am just ripping them into littler pieces. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put those to the side, and I'm going to do the same thing with my yellow and my orange paper that I have left. Now that I have all of my paper pieces ripped up, I'm just going to spread them out a bit so I can see what kind of shapes I have to choose from. And I'm going to pick a few of each color to place on my black and white paper. So I'm going to look for my favorite shapes out of my piles here and just collect those. Once you have some that are your favorites, we're just going to be placing these on our white and black paper. I'm just going to scatter them out kind of all over the place. I can have some overlapping on my border of my black and my white, and I can have some that are just floating on their own. I don't want them touching each other, and I want a good amount of space in between all of them as I place them, but I do want a nice handful of shapes all around my picture. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to save all of my scraps for later in case I want to add any more. I just want to make sure I have some that are overlapping on the edge and I have some on each side. So I have 4 on my white side and I have 4 on my black side to keep it balanced. And I have my 2 in the center. You could place yours however you would like on your paper, though it does not have to look exactly like mine. Now that I have those where I like them, again, I'm going to grab my glue stick and just glue those down onto my paper. So now our picture shows balance again because it is equal on both sides with the amount of my colorful shapes that exist on both halves of my black and my white paper here. And now we want to show some movement in our picture. When we looked at Alexander Calder's paintings, he was using lines that were repeating and bumpy and wavy to show the feeling of movement, to help carry your eye across the page and to make it look almost like water in that one landscape picture we looked at. So what we're going to do with our marker is we're going to create some repeating lines on our white half of our paper to create that sense of movement. So what I'm going to do is with my marker, or if you're using a pen, same thing, I'm just going to trace along that black edge with my pen from the edge of my white paper all the way around till I make it to the other side. Now when I'm doing this, I'm leaving a small space, like a sidewalk almost, in between the line that I'm drawing and the line that I am tracing. I am not going to go over the top of those colorful shapes I just placed. I'm going to go around them and keep following that edge as I am drawing. And I'm going to keep going until I make it to the other side, keeping that small sidewalk space in between what I'm tracing until I make it all the way to the other edge. Now I'm going to keep doing this until I fill up the entire half of my white paper. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep that little sidewalk edge as I follow along with my shape, creating repeating lines to show movement and to emphasize or bring our focus to all of these colorful little fun shapes that we ripped up. So you can see as I am tracing, I am leaving that little space, following along as best as I can, and tracing those shapes to the other side. Now as I'm going to get some gaps where it's going to get too small, and I might not be able to make it in there and leave that same sidewalk-like space. So if I can't fit in, I can just make a little V shape and bounce over it and keep going. So once an area is too small, you can make that little V shape and keep going. Now as I'm going to hit some of my other shapes that are floating and were not anchored to my black paper like this. And when I do that, I am just going to go around those shapes, just like I did when it was touching our black paper. So my little sidewalk line has followed all the way around my shape, following its bumps and its curves, and then met back with the other lines that I have over here. Oh, I'm gonna do it again, going around this one, and then bouncing back to the rest of my pattern. Now here, I'm going to have to go off the page and jump back onto the page at this side. So again, we're still just following all of those same shapes, leaving that sidewalk space as we fill up our paper. Now you don't want to leave too big of a sidewalk gap, otherwise there's going to be a lot of white space on your paper and it's going to look a little funky. If you realize you made one and it has too much space in between it, you can always try and draw a line in between your sidewalk to split it into two if you have to. All right, I think that's the last one I can fit in that little corner. So now my line is going to keep starting from this section. And I'm going to keep going until I fill in that space. And that is what my collage is going to look like all finished. So we were able to create balance and movement today in our picture inspired by Alexander Calder. We created balance using our different colors and our shapes by splitting our paper in half using black and white, and then filling in some of our open spaces with our different colored shapes that we ripped. We made sure to balance those shapes on both sides by having an equal number on our black and on our white half. And then we went in with our lines like our artist and created some movement to make it look like our little shapes are shifting around and moving in almost like a ripple water effect on the white half of our paper. Once you're done with your project, you can take a photo or video of it and upload it on my Canvas page. I can't wait to see what you guys have created. Try your best, have fun, and get creative. I'll see you soon. Bye!